3 months ago, I put out a previous thoughts video going over the gameplay trailer for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and my reaction to it. And overall, I have to say that I couldn't have been more wrong about Tears of the Kingdom. I was at best on the fence, critical of the fact that it seemed like to be nothing more than a glorified expansion to Breath of the Wild. But I'm willing to admit when I am wrong about something, and I was definitely wrong, thankfully, about Tears of the Kingdom. So far, I'm only about halfway through the main story, the main quest of Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm going to try to keep this as light on spoilers as possible, but there might be some spoilers here or there. Tears of the Kingdom is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, that's obvious, set 5 years later, and it is built on the same map as Breath of the Wild, using a lot of the same mechanics, but it is so much more than just an expansion or a DLC for Breath of the Wild. For one thing, there is several levels of the map. You have Hyrule, the main part of the map, which is changed a little bit from Breath of the Wild, but mostly kept the same. There are some changes. I won't go into those changes. But there's two other levels of this world for you to experience. You have the open sky, which I'm still exploring, by the way. So there's still a bit of the open sky islands that are available for me to explore. And then you have the depths. So you also have the depths below, deep below the land of Hyrule. And by the way, Hyrule also includes cave systems and tunnels. So there's also caves, but way below the caves and the tunnels that you can explore, there's also the depths of Hyrule. So there's definitely a lot more to explore in Tears of the Kingdom than in Breath of the Wild, even though there was a lot to do in Breath of the Wild. My first playthrough, back when the game launched 6 years ago, I thoroughly enjoyed playing it from start to finish, and I'm enjoying Tears of the Kingdom as well. I've been really enjoying playing Tears of the Kingdom, not only the main story, which I'm reserving for my live streams, the main story, the main quests. I've been doing a lot of other stuff in the game as well, such as side quests, side adventures, shrines, as well as exploring the world of Hyrule, all the levels, the Sky Islands, as I've already mentioned, and down here into the depths. I still have a ways to go in the depths. My least favorite part of the maps, I suppose, but I'll keep going down here and exploring as well, because there are benefits to going down here, which I won't get into because spoilers. But mostly, obviously, I've ventured across a lot of the map of Hyrule itself, and including I see Hyrule Castle. So I spent a lot of time going to Hyrule Castle for looting purposes, little tips and tricks. All right, so let's demonstrate some of Link's new abilities. First off, you have Ultra Hand, which allows you to move objects, not just move any object you want. Well, objects within reason that you actually can move. You can't move this, so this you can't move. But there's things in the game that you can move, like, for example, pieces of board. So I can only move these objects. I can also attach them together. And you can build a lot of crazy things by simply attaching stuff together, thanks to Ultra Hand. Alright, so the next ability we're going to talk about is Fuse. It is an ability that you have to fuse items together. So we're going to fuse this longsword with this horn in order to make a upgraded weapon. So now I have an upgraded weapon thanks to Fuse, and as you can tell, the power level is now at 37 thanks to combining this longsword with the item in question to create a black Horriblin hammer. So that's definitely going to make fighting in the game a lot more useful against enemies by having the ability to fuse certain items with a weapon or even with your shield. Personally, I prefer just fusing items with your weapon as opposed to your shield. All right, another ability that you have is called Ascend, and this basically allows you to ascend like through objects above you, like that. And that can be very useful in caves or in other places where you want to get to a higher level right above you. And another great ability, courtesy of the Pure Pad, is Ascend. In the depths, eventually you come across this ability, Auto Build, which allows you to basically build different objects together. But it does cost a material in the game. So you eventually acquire Auto Build, which if you get good at it, it's very good at quickly assembling items together that you've constructed before. So it's definitely a good ability to have. There's other abilities too. For example, if you happen to have some amiibos, you can use the amiibos similar to Breath of the Wild, now in Tears of the Kingdom with the amiibo ability. There's also a camera that you eventually acquire, which you can use for taking photos of things and using it to add to the compendium. So the compendium has quite a few items in here, like you can discover animals, monsters, as well as items that you can add to the compendium. So it's pretty cool, the compendium. So there's different sections as well. So you got treasure, you have equipment, materials, monsters, as well as creatures throughout Hyrule that you can take photos of, courtesy of the camera for the compendium. And it also is handy in several missions and side quests. A few other additional upgrades you're going to get with the Pure Pad eventually is travel medallions. You can get up to 3 travel medallions. I'm not going to explain how you do it, but eventually you're able to do this. And with the travel medallions, you can create your own waypoint. Prime example, I like to go to Hyrule Castle and do a bit of looting. So I intentionally placed a travel medallion at Hyrule Castle so I could easily travel right in front of the sanctum of the castle itself. So I could loot for bows, swords, shields, etc. So that's the purpose of the travel medallion. You can end up with up to 3 travel medallions. You also can get the sensor, which you can use to either look for shrines of light, which is how you get the life orbs, spirit orbs, in order to eventually upgrade heart containers as well as your stam wheel. Or if you get the sensor plus, you can use the compendium when you take photos of things to find specific items that you happen to be looking for. So that's another ability you eventually get with the Pure Pad. It's an upgradable ability. The most worthless ability is the Hero's Path. I don't know why, for the life of me, this is a thing. So this is everywhere I've gone so far on the island. I mean, I guess it's interesting to see everywhere you've gone in between and how many times you've gone from here to there. And it keeps record of where you've been. But most people probably don't really care about this. If I could pick and choose an ability to carry over from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, it would be the bombs. I really wish they would allow us to have the bombs from the Sheikah Slate in Breath of the Wild for the Pure Pad as opposed to the Hero's Path. I just find it to be a worthless and the worst ability of all the abilities that you get with the Pure Pad. But that's just my opinion. All right, so these are the, once again, you got Ultra Hand, Fuse, Ascend, Recall. You get all threes at the beginning of the game. Eventually, you will get Auto Build. It's somewhere in the depths in case you're curious. And then you end up acquiring a lot of this other stuff as well. So this is the Pure Pad. You also get it at the beginning of the game. And I'm not going to talk about all this stuff, but there's definitely a lot of different things you can end up acquiring by doing activities. And of course, the light blessings. You get 4 of these by doing shrines. You get 1 per shrine, and 4 you can exchange for either a heart container or for addition to your stam. So you definitely want to keep building up your stam wheel. The batteries, little battery icons, those are for the tools that you have in the game. Say you want to build something, whether it's a flying glider or a balloon or something else entirely, with the Zonai parts that happen to be scattered across the game after you learn how to do all that, thanks to the Ultra Hand and even Auto Build. And there's a limit to the amount of power that those objects have. And that's another reason why you want to build up your cells for the battery. And that's something else you eventually have to learn how to do in the game as well. But it's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of different things. There's also like a temperature, and there's like certain clothing for warm environments, certain clothing for cold environments. Right now, this is about an average environment in Hyrule. And then eventually you can also go to, I guess, vending machines. They look like gumball machines. They're kind of RNG. And you exchange some material, Zonite, and it RNGs you materials that you can use for building. So if I want, I could build something for you right now. So let's build a cart. All right, so we have the parts here. So I'm going to use my Ultra Hand ability to put it all together. You could also use auto build, but I'm just going to use Ultra Hand. It's not that hard. There's a lot more complicated things you can build in the game. You can look at YouTube and see some of the crazy things people have built in the game. And it's quite amazing what you can do in Tears of the Kingdom. But something real simple as a cart. There. So we got a cart. The fans for propulsion. The cart comes with little wheels. And obviously the steering is for steering the cart. So we got to get on the cart. And then, as you can tell, once I start it, I have a limited amount of battery life based on how many batteries and how many cells I have. So there's 3 cells per battery. And the longer the vehicle lasts depends on how many batteries you have. You can also get some like temporary charges as well. I will show you guys an example of that really quick. So like there's a lot of stuff in the inventory. So the Zonite charges, you can use the Zonite charges at the gumbo machines, as I call them, to get those these additional items through RNG. And you can also use it to charge up the battery a little bit. See, this one recharges the battery a bit more, but I'm not going to use a large Zonite charge. I'm just going to use a regular Zonite charge. And yeah, this is the material a lot of materials you'll want to mine for in the game, including the Zonite. So it's actually quite fun. I mean, this is like something I just whipped together, like a little fast, little temporary ground vehicle. It doesn't last forever, but it is kind of fun to use across Hyrule and just to play around with. Eventually, once you get more parts and you play the game, like it's not perfect, but yeah, once you get stuck, you're kind of screwed. So we'll get off and we'll just move it out of the way. So we'll drop that. And as you can tell, the battery is recharging on its own. When you stop using it, it'll recharge. So once it's fully recharged, we can jump on it again. It's a fun object to play around with. So, yeah, it can be a lot of fun to play this game and just come up with lots of different things to create and build and whatnot. As my cart goes flying backwards. It's not perfect. You also have horses in the game. Alright, so let's go to one of the stables and pick up one of my horses. Fun fact, if you happen to have played Breath of the Wild and you had horses in Breath of the Wild and you're using the same account, it's one of the few things that actually will carry over from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. I found that out, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. Unfortunately, the drip you acquire and the other stuff, like the rupees, that doesn't carry over, but at least some stuff does. So we'll go ahead and grab this horse real quick. One of the rare horses you can find in the game, the Stallion. And we'll ride him around. He's still a little wild, so I'm still working on this horse slowly but surely. But the horse riding is okay. This part's kind of annoying because it takes forever to get out of this interaction with the stable hands. I just wish you could just like get your horse and just get the hell out. But you know, definitely a con in my opinion when it comes to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's not a perfect game. It's a great game, but far from perfect. And I've been thoroughly enjoying it. So I got this big old horse, which obviously I named Galaxy Traveler because all my horses are Galaxy Traveler. It's the ridiculous lore on my channel when it comes to any video game that happens to have a horse in it. So, yeah, riding around on the horse in Tears of the Kingdom is about the same as Breath of the Wild. I think they did add a few additional horses like the Stallion. But yeah, you have to catch them, you have to break them in. And you definitely want to have a pretty strong stam wheel, or at least some stam elixirs, in order to properly break in a horse. Most of your, like, transporting across the map might not be with a horse. You may just do it on foot. You'll probably, like, fast travel instead. Through the shrines, through the different sky towers. Or you'll just go up into the sky itself and get around. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can get around the map. And you know, temporarily you can create like a vehicle, like that card I made a moment ago. You can also create a glider. Maybe I'll create a glider in a few minutes. Oops. Some fresh food. Thanks, Galaxy Traveler. The irony is the wolf is my spirit animal, but in most video games that are open world that have wildlife, wolves are pretty aggressive because they're predators in real life. And they're often trying to attack or kill my characters, whether it's in Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Skyrim, Red Dead Online. So you kind of have no choice but to kill them. But at least you get something out of it, like meat. Well, in this game you get meat. In other games you get other objects. But there's a lot of stuff you can loot in the game. You can loot for rupees, other materials that you can farm and use. And obviously parts that you can use for fusing weapons and other additional things on your shields. And yeah, some more meat for the menu. Cooking in Tears of the Kingdom is basically the same as in Breath of the Wild. Not exactly a pro, but not really a con either, because they did make some improvements. They added these recipes, which automatically will gather up items from previously cooked meal. Like, for example, this meat and rice bowl I like to use. It automatically will give you the meat and the Himalayan rice and the rock salt, as long as you have it in your inventory. And then all you got to do is just throw it on the floor like I just did, because, you know, that's another issue that annoys me about the game. So let's do a little take two. We'll grab some more meat. Or we just grab the rock salt real quick, because that's one of the key ingredients. So go ahead and do that. And then make sure it says cook. Throw it in there. Hit skip. So it's pretty quick to cook stuff. So I think the addition of the recipe makes things a lot easier when it comes to cooking in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Much better, in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and cook something else. Prime meat bowl. And once again, make sure you're actually throwing it into the bowl, into the cooker, in order to cook it. And so you got different stuff. You got where you can put your elixirs. You can put food that you've cooked here. You have materials. The materials section, I feel like this could be broken up a little bit easier. You can sort it out if you want to, like, fuse attack power, most used, by type. But I do feel like this is still a little bit clunky. I wish this was better than it currently is, because as you can tell, you can end up acquiring a lot of stuff. And to be honest, most of this I'll probably never use, but it's nice to have just in case. I am a bit of a looter in video games. And then I have my weapons, and you can get more slots for your weapons by collecting Korok seeds. And you do that by finding Koroks or helping Koroks find their friends. And then you go to another character, which I won't spoil. I mean, the same character was in Breath of the Wild. And you exchange a certain number of seeds to get an additional, like, slot for weapons, as well as shields and bows and arrows has its own spot. In Breath of the Wild, we had different types of arrows, but that has now changed based off of the material. So if you want a fire arrow, for example, you've got to select an item that produces fire, like, for example, fire fruit. So you want to collect a lot of fire fruit if you want a fire arrow, or, you know, bombs if you want bomb arrows, or, like, for example, like electric stuff, like you have yellow choo-choo jelly or shock fruit. That is good for shocking. So if you want an electric arrow. So hopefully you get the idea. Plus there's, you know, freeze arrows. But, you know, for a little test, here's a fire arrow. And you also want to loot for arrows, or you can make enough money to buy arrows. And a lot of that is just playing the game, doing side quests. Some NPCs will pay you, and there's some materials you can actually sell, like rubies, along with, I mean, there's some items in the game that are more valuable than other items, and some items you want to hold on to despite the value, because you might need those particular items. But sapphire, topazes, yeah, there's some things in the game that are worth a considerable amount of rupees that you can sell and earn rupees, and use the rupees for buying arrows or buying other materials you need, or eventually building your own house, like I have done. So this is Link's house in Tears of the Kingdom, and eventually you'll get this guy after you do a side quest. I won't go into that, but You have up to, I'll show you real quick. You have up to 15 units that you can get for your house. This, I feel like they could have done a better job with the building aspect. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but you can only have like 15 units max, and so you have to make the most out of it. Now, there are different rooms that you can get. But some of them aren't really worth your time unless you wish to, be creative. And of course, they cost rupees as well. So as you can tell, some I can't afford right now, some I can afford. I guess this really depends on how you want to design your house. I would avoid these two. These are kind of pointless. I mean, I did buy 2 flower beds, mistakenly thinking that I could use the flower beds to grow other plants like bomb plants. I wish that was the case, but it's just cosmetic. But I did actually use the flower beds for the roof of my house. Indoor stairs, pretty good if you want more than one level to your home. I would also recommend getting a kitchen. It's good for cooking. The bedroom is good for sleeping and replenishing your health. You can have up to 3 weapon stand rooms, which means you can store up to 9 weapons additionally, up to 9 bows additionally in your house, and up to 9 shields additionally. But moving these around in the building mode is a lot of trial and effort. And you're definitely want to get really good with the Ultra Hand because you use the Ultra Hand to put all these in place. But the inspector basically will allow almost anything to go through as long as you stay within the boundaries of the plot of land that you end up eventually buying. It overlooks Terrytown, so it is kind of cool to have like several shops down there, and there's some side questing you can do down in Terrytown as well. And Terrytown does tie into Breath of the Wild. So going into my house real quick that I've finished with all 3 levels. Like, here's the bedroom. Obviously, I left my kitchen outside because that's the only way I could really make it work was by putting my kitchen right here, which I mean, it works. It does. So, yeah, I got the bedroom for sleeping and changing the time of days. And it also replenishes your hearts. I got a shield rack, so I got some pretty sweet shields that I may or may not use. It's good for additional storage, because like you only have a certain amount of storage in your like inventory. But if you want additional shields or additional bows or additional weapons, this is how you're able to get them. I wish they had like a chest that you could acquire just to dump a lot of stuff in. That was something I was wanting for the house back in Breath of the Wild. That's now apparently Zelda's house in Tears of the Kingdom. But they never added a chest that you could just dump all of the stuff you don't want to use into. So I got some bows. Obviously, I spare no expense. I go get some of the best quality bows in the land, the Royal Guard bows. So I got 6 of these on the 2nd level. And then I have a 3rd level now where I have 9 weapons storable. So a lot of Royal Guard weapons, broadsword, longsword, pike, and some standard royal swords. So these are the royal weapons: 2 royal swords, 1 royal longsword, and then Royal Guard swords, and then some more royal broadswords. Royal Guard broadswords. So yeah, I got quite a few weapons stored up here just in case I'm running low on weapons and I'm in a tight spot and I don't feel like going to loot, or I'm just having a time issue. I'm like, damn it, I'm running out of weapons. But at the moment, I'm quite content with just leaving those items, the shields, the bows, and the weapons in my house unless I actually need them. So if you go to the top of the house, and that's one reason why I like this shrine right here, is it's a good fast travel point to get back to your house. It's pretty easy to do as long as you discover the shrine in Terrytown. So yeah, the best way to travel is still using fast travel waypoints with these icons, shrines, towers, travel medallions when you get up to 3 travel medallions. That's very good for places you just want to go explore and loot, but it doesn't give you like a waypoint. So it's nice to have those, but they're limited. You can only end up getting like 3 of them. So use them wisely. But yeah, this is my house. I wish there was more customization you could do to the house. Maybe eventually Nintendo will include that in a future update. Like exterior options, instead of it just being like green. You can have any color you want for your house for Hudson's construction as long as it's green. Like, why not add like color options like red or blue or yellow? etc. So that'd be cool if they added more color options for these units for our house. I mean, at least I found some sort of purpose for these flower beds. I just still wish that I could use them and just like plant like bomb plants and just have a shit ton of bomb plants I could just come up here and grab anytime I need. Or probably even like allow them to grow out like a daytime cycle, then come back and pick them up and harvest them. That would be awesome, but unfortunately the flower beds are just cosmetic. But it does make the top of the house look cool, and it does create a roof for me to use for my house here outside of Terrytown in Hyrule. Alright, so here's one of the travel medallions that I put down at the top of this Temple of Time shrine. So I hanged out with that construct down there, and that's one of the friendly robots in the game. And I did a challenge, and I got a paraglider cosmetic. So you can get some different cosmetics for your paraglider. And this is the one I got doing the temple shrine. It's cool looking, I like it, but you end up finding some different designs that you can eventually get. There's also an ability for you to like dye your clothes to a certain degree. All that can be found just like in Breath of the Wild from some weird dude over in Hateno Village. So yeah, that's where you want to go if you want to dye clothes and or change the cosmetics of the paraglider if you happen to have new paraglider materials. So this is the starting Sky Island that you start at. So I guess gliding around here is not really considered to be too big of a spoiler per se, because this is where most people are going to end up, you know, starting the game as the tutorial. So it's pretty easy just to come back here and just hang out and chat. And obviously there's things you can you know, work on your Ultra Hand skills if you want. So lift it up, move it around. If you want to make a hook, do that real quick. You eventually get really, really good, as you know, practice makes perfect, or at least gets you better at doing something. So I'm able to quickly build this. So put that together, hop on. I'm a lot better at building things than I was at the beginning of the game. It was a struggle early on, but you keep doing it, trial and error, you'll get better. So along with the weapons, the shields, bows, you also eventually get armor, the drip, and I won't go over all of it, but I mean different stuff for different things, and you can upgrade these through, not all of them, but some of them you can upgrade through the ferry if you have the coin and you also have the right materials. But there's side quests you have to do in order to like get the fairies to come out of their little flowers in order to help you. But yeah, there's some like this Hylian hood. I upgraded up to a 3-star at the moment. I think the max is 4 stars for items now in Tears of the Kingdom. So there's a lot of different items you can end up buying or finding or acquiring that will help you in the game. And one of my favorites for like gliding around is this outfit. But this particular outfit, which you get by doing some time trials, I'm not going to explain where to get it. It's in the sky somewhere. So you get a piece for doing one time trial. You get another piece for doing another time trial. It definitely benefits you to get these and upgrade it because it's great for gliding. So before I wrap up, as promised, I'm going to really quickly assemble a glider for you. And just glide around the map just for a quick moment. So once again, using the Ultra Hand and then grabbing it before it flies away. So don't put it on the rails. You know, actually, let's do that. Let me demonstrate something real quick. So you do that, and say it almost gets away, right? You can actually rewind time, see? You can turn back time, see? And as you can tell, with the rewind ability, which I didn't demonstrate a moment ago, so I'm demonstrating it at the end. That's how the rewind ability works. It just moves things, not everything, but some objects back in time. Yeah. So, yeah, let's, now that we demonstrate rewind, let's just keep that right there while we add a few items that I got through the gumball machines. So I have one fan, so I can use like one fan. But you know what? Let's be fun. Let's make a balloon. So we're gonna make a balloon. For a balloon, I'm gonna need a balloon. I'm gonna need a flame emitter for the heat. So we'll do that. I can also build some. I can also temporarily use some rockets as well for propulsion. So we have, you know, 4 bits of, you can have up to the 10 pieces for a device if you want to build a vehicle, either along with whatever you find in the game, like this glider or other parts, or you can just assemble something right, like whatever you happen to have here. So, all right, so let's put this together. We have some rockets. The rockets are temporary, by the way, but they'll help give us some speed. So we're going to do this. All right, so I'm going to do that. All right, so I'm not happy about the angle there, so I can just grab it, shake it apart, and then put it back together. Just try and get as straight as possible. It's not cooperating. I don't know if it really matters if it's completely straight or not. But I guess I try to make it as straight as I can. All right, so we got that. Then I guess what we'll do, and this is not the best way to use a glider, to be honest, but whatever. So we want to get this flame emitter straight. And then we'll put the flame emitter maybe back here. Like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. This may work out. This may be an outright disaster. But what the hell? We're just doing this for the sake of science, right? There's a lot of characters you'll encounter in the game as well. And a lot of things you can do in the game besides the main story. So take your time and, you know, play through the game and, you know, try to enjoy it. Just like I have. And hopefully you'll have a good time playing it. Alright, so let me go ahead and get on. And start that up. Alright. So it gave us some height. But, as you can tell, this is not exactly the best balloon because I didn't put it in the center. But that's fine. We're just experimenting here. We're just having a little fun. And as you can tell, the fire will last as long as the battery lasts, which is about to run out. So once the battery is gone, then all I have left is the glider until the battery recharges. But you can actually make objects that stay in the air for a long period of time, depending on the batteries or the charges you happen to have. So now it's just strictly glider mode, as we use the glider to glider on the map. Unfortunately, it's not permanent, so eventually, after a certain distance, this glider will start to blink out of existence, but we'll see how long we keep the glider in the air. And it is quite amazing how much is in this world of Tears of the Kingdom compared to Breath of the Wild. You have the land below of Hyrule, then you have all these different sky islands to explore. And then the caves, the tunnels, as I talked about, which are technically also part of the land of Hyrule. But then deep below, you have the depths as well. And we won't go into the depths because, yeah, it's kind of spoilers. And if I'm being honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the depths. I mean, I'll go down there to loot things and get more Zonite. So as you can tell, the glider's about to blink out of existence. This is definitely another con in my opinion. I wish that they would last as long as you want them to last. I just think it's a little ridiculous that they just eventually just do that. But fortunately, you have with the sages, you'll eventually get abilities, and I'm just spoiling this one real quick. So with this sage avatar, I have the ability to gust, which gives me more air power. But as you can tell, while using the paraglider, I'm losing stamp. So for now, I'm just going to switch to my glider, you know, with my outfit. And this outfit makes it a lot easier to glide, especially if you have upgraded, you know, your drip. And each one, as you upgrade it, improves things like your armor, your abilities, like when it comes to warmth or cold resistance, or fire resistance, or shock, electric, lightning resistance, or your ability to swim or go up go up waterfalls, or like in this case, to simply just glide. So once again, I'm going to use the gust ability along with my sweet looking paraglider. And then I'll quickly switch back. So we're not going to go into Hyrule Castle because even though I like to loot there, I don't really want to spoil it for any of you. So I'm trying to keep this as light on spoilers as possible. And for anyone that's happens to be new to the game, they haven't played Tears of the Kingdom yet. But if you enjoyed Breath of the Wild, I think you're really going to love Tears of the Kingdom. Once again, it is a sequel. It takes place roughly 5 years after the events of Breath of the Wild. And the story is really good. Obviously, the return of Ganondorf. I mean, that's been promoted heavily in the artwork and by Nintendo. So Ganondorf, the Demon King, is back. a lot of people excited about that. And there's some new characters you're introduced to, and they do a really good job with the characters and the interaction and everyone you happen to come across in the game. So overall, despite some things I don't like about Tears of the Kingdom, some flaws, like for example the ridiculous inventory, because like you're trying to like grab something. Oh yeah, another ability that I learned thanks to a friend of mine, Chaz Rooney, so shout out to Chaz Rooney. If you want to, for example, let's just say you want to throw a fireball, but you don't want to use an arrow, you can just throw it. So you just grab it, and then you can run around, and instead of wasting a bow and an arrow, boom, you can just throw it. And according to my Pura pad, yeah, there's a shrine nearby. So, and there's also weather. It also warns you about the weather. It shows you, like right now it's sunny, but it's going to start raining soon at the bottom. And eventually there's going to be lightning. And when there's lightning, you obviously don't want to have any metal bows or metal weapons or metal shields on you. You want to, you know, replace them with weapons that are not metal, or simply just disable them altogether, because it does increase your chance of being struck by lightning if you happen to have a bow, a shield, or a weapon that is metal, because you'll start seeing like lightning effects appearing, warning you, because the lightning can damage you, but it can also be used to damage enemies and monsters. And that's another fun thing in the game. There's a lot of different ways to play the game, and Nintendo did a great job crafting this game to where you can, like, this is a way to create a waypoint. Is go to a shrine and then do that, and you can always come back to the shrine later if you don't want to do it right now. So at the very least, I have a new waypoint. So I have this waypoint now that I can use at my heart's desire. So I can just fast travel back to Lookout Landing. And this is kind of like the main area you end up at the beginning of the game once you get done with the Sky Island. You'll spend a lot of time doing like side questing and some main story stuff throughout the realm of Hyrule, but you're going to do a lot of it here as well throughout Lookout Landing. And one of the main people that has changed a lot since Breath of the Wild is Pura. Pura's a little different now. Yeah, she's just a little different than she was in Breath of the Wild. Definitely an improvement, I would say. But yeah, so that's Pura. A lot of people are simping over her now. Okay. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Great game. It's more than just an expansion to Breath of the Wild. Nintendo added so much more to this world, and they added to the story that they initiated with Breath of the Wild, and a lot of things you can now do that you couldn't do in Breath of the Wild, you can now do in Tears of the Kingdom, including going into the sky to visit the islands, or go down one of these chasms to go into the depths and mine and do other thing as well, or just run around with the Master Sword, cut grass for crickets, and even sometimes some Himalayan rice or lizards. So you can do that as well. By the way, there's also these glyphs you'll come across in the game on the ground, and each one has a cutscene, and they're not exactly in any particular order. So you'll see like the backstory of what happens to Zelda in the past when she's sent back in the past through these cutscenes, and some other cutscenes in the game too as you like advance through the main story. But it fleshes out what's happened in the past and what she's been doing and the individuals she ends up meeting. So each of these contains a different cutscene that you actually can go and watch in the adventure log. And there's also characters that you're introduced to throughout the game that go into the character log. All right, so this is the depths, in case you were wondering. I decided, since I showed you a little bit of the ground of Hyrule, a little bit of the sky, I'd show you a little bit of the depths as well. And this is just one part of the depths. As you can tell, I have yet to explore the entire depths. I'll get around to it eventually. It's a lot more treacherous because you see that reddish stuff on the ground. That's called gloom. You do not want to touch it. You absolutely don't. You want to avoid the gloom in the game at all costs. So just be careful when it comes to gloom. But there's definitely like reasons for you to come down here to get more zonite, to mine for that. And you can also interact with constructs that you come across, those friendly robots. There's also other robots that are not so friendly. So you got to be mindful. There's things in the game that want to kill you, but there's also some things in the game that want to help you. So yeah, you got a lot of friends and a lot of foes in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But for the record, I would say my least favorite part of this game is probably the depths. And there's one of the many dragons that happen to be flying around in Tears of the Kingdom. They're also in Breath of the Wild. And yeah, thanks to the ability to fly in the game and get up into the Sky Islands, you can actually get closer to these dragons. But be careful, each dragon that you come across also has a different ability. I think this one's a fire dragon, so it gets really hot when you get around him. But if you shoot it with an arrow, you also get a shard. So there is a benefit to going after this dragon. I mean, they're friendly. They won't harm you, not intentionally. So occasionally you'll see these cool looking Chinese dragons flying around the map as well. So despite the fact that I've yet to finish the main story of Tears of the Kingdom, which I will continue and eventually finish via my live streams, I'm having a great time once again exploring the land of Hyrule, the Sky Islands, and eventually I'll get around to the depths as well. But the looting, the harvesting for items, hunting, catching fish, getting rupees, fighting monsters, coming up with crazy silly ways to fight the monsters, and assembling different vehicles, and the characters you interact with, like this Korok, who obviously needs my help. This is one of the ways you can get seeds, is by helping the Koroks or finding the Koroks. So that one, a little bit more challenging. You have to go all the way down there just to get it. So since there's lightning, like I mentioned a moment ago, yeah, you definitely want to make sure you have a weapon and bow and shield that does not have lightning. So I want to look at my weapons real quick and switch them. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a shield because I have a thing for the Royal Guard shields, as you may have noticed. So I'm going to have to go shieldless here in order to protect myself. So there we go. Now I've decreased my risk of being hit by lightning, fortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Galaxy Traveler and ride back to the house real quick. Overall, I've really enjoyed playing Tears of the Kingdom. It is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, which is rare in a Zelda game. It hasn't happened that many times before. But at the same time, like Breath of the Wild, it honors the canon, the legacy of the Zelda franchise, the lore. It continues to build on it. And I feel like it does a good job with the new characters it introduces and characters it reintroduces, and the direction that Tears of the Kingdom is going so far. I absolutely enjoyed Breath of the Wild. It's in my top 3 Zelda games, along with the original Zelda and Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I get the feeling that at the very least, when I'm done with Tears of the Kingdom, it will easily be in a top 5 position when it comes to my personal 5 favorite Legend of Zelda games. But that's pretty much how I feel about Tears of the Kingdom. Once again, I am glad I was wrong in my reaction thoughts video 3 months ago. Now, I wasn't completely negative, but at the same time, I obviously had my own concerns, and I felt like it was going to be nothing more than a glorified expansion. And there were some things that I saw in the trailer of the gameplay that I wasn't really too thrilled or excited about, but I've grown to thoroughly enjoy while playing this game. I really have. There are some things I wish they would improve, like the inventory, more customization for the houses, more units for the house. It could be a Switch limitation. Maybe that's why we're only allowed to have up to 15 units when it comes to building a house in the game eventually when you're able to build a house. I know that's a spoiler, but it's a side quest, so I mean, at least it gives you something else to look forward to while playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It would be nice if we could actually customize at least the exterior of the house, the door, the color, like change it to maybe black and gold. I would like that, my channel colors, or like red, blue, yellow, etc. And I also wish that they would have improved the horse mechanics, because yeah, the horse mechanics aren't really much different than they were in Breath of the Wild. They're still kind of clunky. It will get you around the map if you like the horses. That's fine. There's definitely things you can do with the horses. Now you can also tow things like wagons and carts with the horses when you get the right item for it. Yeah, you build a perfectly good bridge for your horse to go across, and it refuses. I guess horses in this game are not as dumb as I think they are. So there is that. But anyways, that's pretty much all I got to say about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I know a lot of it's just rambling thoughts, kind of showing you some of the stuff in the game you could do. But there's way more you can do in the game than I showed you. But I'll continue playing through Zelda Tears of the Kingdom until we eventually finish the main story. And even after the main story, I will probably come back to Tears of the Kingdom quite a few times in order to continue to explore, side quest, adventure, and create all sorts of interesting things from bridges to other vehicles as well. And see what else Tears of the Kingdom has to offer going forward with content. Because I think Nintendo is planning future content and DLCs for Tears of the Kingdom, very similar to what they did for Breath of the Wild. Looking forward to that as well. By the way, feel free to check out my Zelda playlist for my playthroughs of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. And by the way, I'm going to continue playing through Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on Sundays, 12 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. UK, until we finish the main story. Your thoughts, views, and opinions regarding Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Is it your favorite Zelda game of all time? Is it in your top 3, top 5, or top 10, or not even close to top 10? Thoughts, views, and opinions, as always, welcome below in the comments section.